Hi guys, so in today's video we're going to take a look at something a little bit different away from the paint side of things. We're going to be taking a look at powder coating with the Electrostatic Magic Easy Coat system. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to take you through the steps of recoating this rocker cover in powder coat. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put it through a chemical stripper. We're then going to put it through the sandblaster to make sure all the metal's perfectly clean. Then going to go through a preheat in the oven to gas it all out, and then we'll get onto the actual powder coating side of things and show you the kit, what comes with the kit, and also how you can use it to achieve semi-professional results from a little kit like this. Okay, so this is the Easy Coat system from Electrostatic Magic that they sent out for us to have a bit of a play with and a bit of a test. So along with the kit you get a couple of pots and you get a few sample powders as well. For this particular job we're going to be using some primer first, some red gloss, and then some clear coat. All powders etc are also available on their website, and they've got quite a good range of different powders on their website. So in the kit you get a little water filter. So if you're not like us where you've already got a water trap, you can add a little extra water filter on there. You've got the earth strap and the earth lead, obviously for earthing your parts. Now we have slightly changed that to a slightly longer one, obviously because some of the parts that we're doing are a little bigger. And you've actually got the coating gun itself, which is just this coating gun here. It's quite a nice, neat little compact design. There's no big hoppers or anything like that, and you can literally just screw your pots straight on top of the gun and away you go. You also get a little bit of an instruction booklet that tells you all about it. It's got some troubleshooting tips, some problem solving, that sort of thing. I mean, powder coating is something that we're looking getting into as a business. So we're actually upgrading from this kit to a professional kit, but this has given us a good idea the past few weeks of what's best in process wise to go about doing the powder coating, what's best for stripping, what's best for outgassing, using primers on things like cast aluminium and that sort of thing. And also we will be keeping this kit, so if we've got any little parts in the future that we want to do, then we don't obviously have to get the big powder coating setup out. We could just use this, because we have actually got some very professional level results with what is marketed as a DIY kit. And I mean, I suppose it's a bit like the paintwork side. It's all about the prep that you put into the work that you're going to do. Okay, so here we have the rocker cover now. This has been through the chemical stripper. So first it gets submerged in the chemical stripper for about 10 minutes. Then once it's been through the chemical stripper, we've taken this out, left it to dry, and then put it in a neutralization tank, which will neutralize any of the acid or any of the chemicals in the stripper, and also neutralize any of the acid or the chemicals on the tiny little bits that are left over. Now bearing in mind this was a powder coated part in the first place, this literally was in the stripper for like 10 minutes, and as you can see the last few little bits that didn't fall off in the stripper just come off by hand. So the next thing to do now is to stick this in the sandblaster, give this a sandblaster, and then stick it in the oven to outgas it at 180 degrees for around about an hour, to make sure that any chemicals or oils or anything have been dispersed from the part before we get round to the coating stage.
Now, if you don't have chemical stripper at hand, and I'm guessing if you're a DIY guy and you don't have chemical stripper at hand at home, then obviously you would be sandblasting the paint or the powder coat off this, as well as then obviously etching it up and cleaning it up, ready to take the powder coat. However, the beauty of the chemical stripper for us means that all the hard work really is out of the way in the chemical stripper. Now, we have found a very good firm who supplied us with our chemical stripper, and we're actually going back again this week to buy some more bits and pieces off them. So I will leave a link in the description to the guys over at RIBBLE Technology Limited, who are very good and also very knowledgeable about chemical stripper. So because this has been through the chemical strip, we literally just need to give this a quick clean up now to get rid of any tarnishing from the acid, make sure this is nice and clean and well etched, ready to take the powder coat. Now, powder coat obviously is very different to the usual paint side of things that we do. This is a whole process that we have had to learn over this past month while we have been getting set up ready as a business to actually do this properly. And we found that in the tank, or in the sandblast cabinet should I say, that a medium grit sandblast is best after we've used the chemical stripper. It gives the part a real nice quick clean etch. I mean, this part here was literally only a couple of minutes in the sandblast cabinet just to clean it up, and you can see how quick and easy it's all coming up. Plus, with a lot of the parts that we're going to be working with being aluminium, we don't want to use a sandblast media that is too coarse because it will pit the surface and leave it with a really horrible finish. So there you go, that is the part all sandblasted and cleaned up, and what we're going to do now is we're going to pop this into the oven at 180 degrees for 60 minutes.
Okay, so we've got the part out of the sandblaster. We then put it in the oven to degas it, so that any of the contaminants in the metal or anything like that can be well heated out and well outgassed from the part. So the next thing that we're going to do is mask up the areas that we don't want a powder coat. We're just going to make sure first that there's no excess sand, make sure you get in all the little holes and all the little gaps and all the little edges. So what we need to do is to mask up any threads and also the back side where we don't want the powder coat to go. So the way that you can do this is there is heat proof tape which you can use. For the underside we're just going to use heat proof foil tape because it's a lot cheaper and a lot more cost effective and quicker as well to mask off the underside. You could use nuts and bolts if you want. You can just thread them in and then just whip them out like we're going to do before we put it into the oven. And also you can get silicone bung kits. Now I got this kit on Amazon for about 20 quid and it was like a couple of hundred bungs for like 20 quid. So that was quite a cost effective way of doing it. So let's get on now and get this masked up.
So as I said, the most cost effective way we found for large areas is actually this foil tape, because the proper heat resistant tape, like the brown stuff that I showed you at the very start, is very expensive per roll. Some rolls can go up to like £15–20 a roll, whereas this foil tape averages for like a couple of pound a roll and is more than good enough for masking off areas such as this on the underside of large parts.
Right, so that's the back side sealed up tight now, because what we don't want is the powder coat actually getting into the back side. Now we're just going to give it a very, very quick trim around the outer edge, because what we don't want is this tape overlapping on the outside and leaving a lip of powder. So if we left it like that, it's going to leave quite a lip of powder on the outside once the powder coat's actually been applied and then baked through the oven. So just a little trim off, get rid of any of this excess that we don't want. And then we're pretty much going to be ready to shoot some powder and get it into the oven for its first stage.
So with the large underside area already masked off, what we're going to do now is we're just going to check that there's no holes that need to go all the way through. So obviously being a rocker cover, there are some holes in the very top of this rocker cover where your spark plugs would go, that go all the way through the top of the rocker cover. So we need to make sure that we open those holes up on the bottom of this foil tape, otherwise the powder coat will actually stick to the tape and bridge that gap, and then when it's baked in the oven, obviously that's going to seal that hole up, and then you'd have a lot of messing around afterwards to then clean all these areas back up. So we're just using a single edge razor blade, just very lightly trimming around the very edge of the actual casting, and that'll give us a really nice clean cut around the edge of that casting and a real nice clean finish to the powder coat around those edges as well. Now the other option is you can also seal up around the oil filler cap. I mean, personally on this one we left it to coat the top of the oil filler cap, so it's got a nice clean finish, and when the cap goes back down there's a nice clean seal there, because it's got quite a thick chunky thread to this oil filler cap, so it's not really much of an issue, the powder coat going in that little bit of an area. and also the actual oil filler cap having a big rubber gasket on the top of it as well, just it eliminates that little problem as far as the oil cap goes. So for the threads, what we found best to do is, rather than using the silicone bungs, because sometimes they can be a little bit messy, is to just thread bolts into the very top of the threads, and again making sure that there's no sand or anything left down any of these thread holes. And what we will do is we will powder coat the part and then remove the bolts before we put it into the oven, which will give us the best and nicest clean finish to the part when it's done. Because unfortunately, being a very picky painter does make me very picky at how we've gone about this powder coating. We've spent most of our time, as far as learning how to powder coat goes, about improving the finish, improving the overall look and the quality of the product that we're putting out. Although we know this is an industrial finish, we wanted to put out the best we possibly can. So now all the prep's out of the way, it's time for the fun part. We've got the gun here and we've got a regulator set on it, and first we're going to be using, in the powder coat industry, what is a high build primer. It's always best to give any of the powders a little shake. It just helps to fluidize the powder a little bit and helps them flow out of the gun a little bit better. And as I said at the very start of this video, the great thing about this kit is you literally can just screw these bottles straight to the powder coat gun. So the first stage of the actual powder coating process is to make sure that you've got a really good earth to the part. So we're going to connect the earth strap up to the gun like so, and then we know we've got a good earth to the part, because the powder coming out is positively charged and the part itself is negatively charged, hence why they call it electrostatic spraying, because the two attract. Then we're just going to very gently go across and we're going to try and hit the hard to reach areas first. Now the very fine details, it is hard sometimes with powder coat to get the powder to land inside those fine details and tight edges, and that is basically because when the powder lands in those very tight edges, the positive particles of the powder actually push themselves out of that area. So it's always best, like around the bolt holes and little sections like that, just to give those areas an extra little double check and an extra little spray if needs be. And you'll see that as we go along, we'll just always give these extra bolt holes a little bit of an extra little spray. Now, one thing that I do particularly like about powder coating as opposed to spraying is the ease of a redo. So if, for instance, you have got some dust or some crap that's landed in this that is going to be a noticeable problem when this part is done, obviously this is not stuck to the part, it's just a powder that has landed on the surface, so we can very quickly just blow this off. As long as you did this cold and not warm, you can just blow the powder off and literally start again and just recoat the part from scratch. So what we're going to aim for here is we're just going to aim for a nice even coverage for this primer. Now we've found that the best process for any cast parts like aluminium or cast things is to use a primer first. It flows out a little bit and just helps get rid of a few of the casting marks and just gives a slightly nicer finish to the part when it is done. And although I did say at the start that we were getting some semi-professional level results with this kit, I have to say, for what is a DIY kit, we have actually got some extremely professional results with this kit. And if you wait till the end of the video to take a look at this rocker cover, I mean, I'll be honest, I've never seen rocker covers powder like to that standard before. They've always got quite a lot of casting marks in, and it's why I've always been sort of a bit dubious about powder coating as a business, just because we obviously have quite a standard that we like in our paint shop, and we want to make sure we put the same level of standard out in the powder coat. So while that's part curing in the oven for 5 minutes, I just want to show you how quickly and easily it is to actually clean this out and change over powders. So we're literally just going to whip off the primer here. We're going to take off the electrostatic part of the gun, give the gun an airline out, make sure everything's nice and clean, and whip the new pot on. And this whole process will take you less than 2 minutes. And you don't really have to take the electrostatic part off. We just like to do it to make sure that we can make sure that that barrel is 100% clean and get as much of the excess powder out of the gun before we switch over to a colour or a clear or anything else. And it is a great bonus of this scheme. There's no long cleanup times, there's no long changeover times. this kit is an exceptionally good kit for what is a DIY hobby sort of level powder coating kit. I mean, proper powder coating kits can cost you anything up to like 4,000 quid just for the actual gun setup and the tank setup, whereas this comes in, I think this kit's around about £239 for the real all-out starter package, which is exceptional value for money. Because if you look at the video at the end and see the final product that we actually put out with this supposed DIY kit, it looks absolutely phenomenal. It is something that I will be happy to charge out for in my shop, that we have literally done with a DIY powder coating kit. You cannot knock this kit whatsoever. And as you can see here, the lad has literally changed this over in less than 2 minutes while we've been having a little chat. So that part baked that part has now gone in the oven for 5 minutes to part cure that primer. It's more than done, and there is the primer now. So the primer has had a part cure, ready to take the red top coat, and we are just going to put the red top coat on exactly the same as we did with the primer. We're just going to put a nice even coat over this part now it has cooled back down to room temperature, making sure we get all those very tricky tight areas, and we're extra careful around those areas where the powder can actually push itself out because of the positive repelling of the powder, and just give this one very nice even light coat. Now the primer itself you would part cure before you put the top coat on, and then the top coat colour we will then fully cure for 12 minutes at 180 degrees, and then we're going to put the high gloss clear coat over the top of that. Now the high gloss clear coat is an optional extra, so to speak. This is a gloss powder as it stands anyway, but we've just found that it flows out that little bit and just gives it that real nice final glassy proper really nice surface finish as far as we're concerned. And that is one of the things that we have been trying so hard during the sort of research and our learning of this, is to get that ultimate finish to the powder coat. Because again, you know, we are a shop that puts out the best quality we can, so we want to put out the best quality we can as far as the powder coat goes. So this has been through now its 12 minutes bake cycle in the oven at 180 degrees, and now we've let it cool down to room temperature. We've just re-earthed this again at the bottom, refitted the bolts, and we're just going to give this now one nice coat of the high gloss clear coat. And exactly the same way that we've done it before, we're just going to get down a nice even coat, making sure that we're getting all those tight areas where the Faraday effect stops the powder from getting in as well. We don't want to overload the part, we just want a really nice even consistent layer of powder across the whole thing. And when it's done basically with the clear coat, the best way that I could describe it is it will end up with a nice frosty looking finish. Now at any of these stages we could have blown this off and recoated this if we've had any issues. Obviously, you know, if we'd done the primer and then the colour went on wrong in an area, as long as you were coating it as a cool part like we are now, then you'd be okay. Now you can coat parts hot, but we found that it's a little bit more difficult to see the amount of powder and the coverage that you're actually putting on a part, just because when you're actually shooting the powder on hot, it does melt and almost flow out instantly. Now the same goes for when you actually bake a part. The 10 minutes stands from when the powder flows out. So once the surface of the part, when it goes into the oven, the powder flows out and becomes wet, then you would start your timer for the specified time, and that varies powder to powder. This clear coat, for instance, runs at a 12 minutes at 180 degrees from flow out. Some powders run around about 10 minutes. It varies from powder to powder and also powder manufacturers. So with the clear coat all down now, we can remove those bolts and put this into our big 3-phase oven, or should I say our smaller 3-phase oven, to get that cured. And as you can see now with that clear coat on, the finish on this is absolutely stunning. And I have to say, I am happy to where we've got this of a level of quality to in the past month. And I know this obviously is a bit of a different video to the usual paint side of things, but I just thought this might be something that you guys might like to see. So there is the finished rocker cover, along with obviously the kit that we have used, the primers, the red gloss, the clear coat, and not to mention the most important part of this project, which was the easy coat gun from Electrostatic Magic. I will leave a link in the description to everything that we have used in the video, from the powders to the gun and the kit that we had from Electrostatic Magic, and a big thanks to them for sending us that out to actually test and play with. And it is something that we were looking up to upgrading and getting rid of, but we've actually decided that it is that good that we are going to be keeping it for doing all our small parts in the shop as well, because as you can tell, for a hobby level kit, this will put out some outstanding results if you are willing to put in the hours to do it. So that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon for the next one. Bye for now.